friends and family from around the world. This is Mike with Daily Events Worldwide, and we are on January 22nd, 2023. Welcome to another surviving day on the planet, and welcome to the Daily Do, giving you your space weather update, as well earthquakes, volcanoes, and of world weather. Checking out here the last 48 hours on our sun, as we did see a sizable M-class solar flare, and is probably set to give us another glancing blow, and we have a coronal hole wind stream which is on its way. Having a look here, the last 48 hours incoming, large plasma filament on the right hand side, and also a bright cresting sunspot region on the right. Other than that, not too much to talk about. Most of the action is outgoing and earth facing, as we saw that large plasma filament take off from the sun a couple days ago. And then these two massive sunspot regions firing off M-class solar flares and C-class solar flares. So heads up, these are not out of view yet. And we have a large plasma filament stretching across, or should I say snaking across, the southern hemisphere right now. And look at that black squiggly line there. Large plasma filament. Top left-hand side, cresting sunspot region. But look at this. That plasma filament stretches straight across the surface of our sun, almost connecting both large sunspot regions. And right in the middle of that, we've got a huge coronal hole. So coronal hole wind stream is expected here in the next 48 hours. Our sun kind of looks like a very unhappy face. Looking at coronal hole regions here, 193 angstroms. One is Earth facing and another one developing. Solar X-ray flux remains in a heightened C range right now, getting some more activity after seeing an M-class solar flare today. Geomagnetic activity is elevated to a KP 3.5. Real-time solar wind was sitting at about 450 to 500 kilometers per second. And this telemetry here is indicative of an impact, a space weather impact. Having a look at how our magnetosphere is holding up during this impact, as it is still ongoing. And now we're expecting a pretty thick coronal hole stream. Having a look at ISWA Space Prediction Spiral, that was the latest solar flare, creating a CME taking off towards Mercury, but we're set to get a glancing blow. And then in these images here, you can see the two coronal hole wind streams coming out from that right side of the sun. The little yellow dot, that is Earth. That is our home. Here's a quick look at the last coronal mass ejection, and as well LASCO 2, showing the last 48 hours of activity, only showing that one large CME there, and then another small one in outgoing. Schumann resonance for today, a high power of 39. As you can see, very static right now, and then almost a blackout. So power of 39, amplitude of 37, power quality of 8.6. Now let's get to earthquakes here the past 24 hours. We're going to start out with the most recent here on the map, looking at Walton 3D earthquakes. Lucatan, Philippines with a 4.6. 117 kilometer depth, and this region has been riddled with earthquakes recently. Got to wonder what is going to happen next. Really hoping there isn't a larger earthquake, but could be some maybe submarine volcanoes waking up, or some old ancient volcanoes waking up. But stay tuned. Pangana, Papua New Guinea there, 5.0. Our deepest earthquake the past 24 hours, 390 kilometer depth, 4.6 Fiji, 4.3 here. Rotorua, New Zealand, northern New Zealand, right off the coast there. Alaska seeing increased in activity. Nikolskoye, 4.8. Quiet through Japan and Kamchatka, further south to Taiwan. North American plate. Ferndale, California, 3.3. That is the largest across North American soil. Notable earthquakes here through New Madrid. 2.6 Missouri and 2.8 Hope, Kansas. Hennessy, Oklahoma, also seeing a 2.6. Guatemala is a shaking today, 4.4 and a 4.5. And Puerto Rico, seeing some increased seismicity this week. Cruz Bay Islands, Virgin Islands 4.1, and as well the swarming all around Puerto Rico, including the 6.2 earthquake that happened earlier on in the week. South American plate, quiet, except for this 4.5, San Juan, Peru. So expecting something to come back here to South America, especially for activity. We did see that big 6.8 Argentina, but I don't think our planet's done just yet. Especially looking here the last 7 days, Antipode, big 6.8 earthquake there, and as well a 6.2 south of Japan, and as well the 6.8 there in Indonesia. Notable 6.2 there, Central America. Notable earthquakes, Rick James Ridge, moving northward towards Iceland. We could have another volcano waking up in Iceland, so heads up. We're going to be keeping an eye on tremor counts through the region. This is a quick glance at the last 7 days for earthquakes. Stay aware, prepared, everybody. If you are in an earthquake zone, just be ready, prepare, and stay safe. Having a look here, Pacific Disaster Center showing the most recent volcanoes getting updated. Reventador, Ebico in Russia, Cotopaxi in Ecuador, Popo in Mexico, Sangay in Ecuador. 185 active hazards here. Sabancaya in Peru. These are all updated in the last 3 hours. And many flood alerts here. Pacific Disaster Center. Fuego in Guatemala. Sheveluch in Russia. Or Sheveluch. Semeru in Indonesia. And as well Ibu in Indonesia. And that's right around all of those earthquakes that we've seen recently around the Banda Sea. Having a look here at live satellite imagery from around the world. This is the last 48 hours of imagery. Big Colorado low here developing as that raced across the west coast coming from the East Pacific. Big low pressure system coming out of Japan this week. Some pretty strong winds and coupled with that system. And still watching all of these low pressure systems track straight across the Pacific. But now they're moving right up into Alaska and the Bering Strait. Overlooking Africa, Europe. Lots of cloud cover with this large low pressure system. It's been spinning there for about 3 days. And as well a big wave of cold moisture and air from Russia heading down to Mongolia. Let's have a look at the weather forecast here, as we do have a pretty big low that's affecting eastern seaboard right now and is going to continue here for the next 24 hours. Brought 5 centimeters of snow here to Ontario. Got a low pressure system over Manitoba, and as well a big low pressure system here over the Alaskan Peninsula, bringing tons of moisture to northern BC. Forwarding here the next few days, by Tuesday, watch for a very large Colorado low to dip far south and draw from the Gulf of Mexico a lot of energy and warm air. Watch for this to be a major snowstorm for Ontario and as well northeastern states, as the cold temperatures will be swinging down behind this. Watch for extreme weather all along the coast, eastern United States, and then this system will move up into the Atlantic provinces of Canada, and they just saw 50 centimeters of snow. By that time, another low develops through Manitoba, and that's going to be a cold, very cold low, bringing a lot of moisture. Have a look here at the temperature maps for the next few days. That's a minus 33 in parts of Manitoba, minus 40 Manitoba, but parts of northeastern United States, minus 30. Polar vortex is setting up for what could be a very long winter as we enter Year of the Rabbit, which is known to be a long winter year. Having a look here at our upper level winds, brought to you by Null School. Polar vortex elongated and stretching all the way down to the North Atlantic. But watch for this Siberian air to follow that track all the way down to North America. Winter will be setting in for sure, as we've got a big snowstorm on our doorstep, and February could be a long month and cold. Carrying on here with our weather forecast from around the world, overlooking South America. Daily evaporation rains until about next Friday, Saturday. You've got a pretty big system here making landfall through Argentina and is set to move northward. Another system there off the coast of Buenos Aires. And then we've got this strange track of cyclone Cheniso, as it raced straight across northern Madagascar and is now gaining strength over the next couple days, whipping up western parts of Madagascar before it finally makes its way southward by the end of the month. So heads up, Madagascar, overlooking Europe, low pressure system, as I said, hanging out over the Mediterranean for the next little bit. Another one joining the party here by next Thursday, Friday. So gray days still ahead of you for Europe, and as well some very windy ones in the long range. Stay tuned for the next forecast. Overlooking the West Pacific, Southeast Asia, and India. Pretty big system here coming out of China. It's going to bring some heavy snowfall to western Japan as that heads up into Kamchatka, eastern Russia, and that will bring a lot of heavy snow towards that volcanic region. Looking at the long-range forecast here, we've got a pretty big system developing Central Pacific, just north of Hawaii, set to bring some very strong winds and high surf to all of the Hawaiian Islands. Overlooking Australia and New Zealand, moisture hanging around through northwestern parts and as well southeastern parts, as tropical low scathes just east of Sydney, running down the coastline as a downgraded tropical system, and as well a low pressure system heading to New Zealand, and then another strong low here moving into the Northern Territory, and it looks like it's going to continue on eastward. Stay tuned for the next forecast. Much love, everybody. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Stay aware and prepared. Stay young and have fun. And get your daily dew. Good night. Bye-bye. If you enjoyed today's video, please hit that like button, subscribe, share with your friends and family from across the world.